Okay, hi there, this is Brian Harlow, and I just wanted to show another little how to make a little tract video. Um, this is the tract I've been putting out for the last probably month or so, and my previous video I showed how to make like a booklet style tract, and you can only get two or sometimes even only two tracts per piece of paper by doing it that way. I wanted to show how to make one that's just a single-sided card, basically. It looks like a business card, kind of. You can get 12 of these tracts from one sheet of paper, and I make mine out of cardstock. And I actually kind of round the corners and stuff too, which I'll show in this video exactly how I do that. But here's the track. If you want to take the time to read what I put in mine, you can pause that. And you can pause that. I put kind of like a little email address at the bottom for anybody that would have questions about the Bible or about salvation, or just wants to cuss me out and tell me to stop leaving tracts everywhere. So anyways, if you're interested at all how I made this, just keep watching the video and I'll show you exactly how I put this thing together. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and show you here on my computer how I made this tract, if anybody's interested. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my program here, Open Office. And I've showed in my other tract video, this is actually free software that you can get online. It's just a word processor. It's for free. You can download it for free online. Just type in Apache Open Office into a search engine, and there's a free download for it. So I'm going to open this program here. And I'm just going to start a text document. So, first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to set the margins of your page. So right now there's a 0.79 inch margin around the page. So I'm going to set these all to 0, just like that. So you want left, right, top, and bottom all to be 0. And you want your paper to be formatted at letter size 8.5 by 11, portrait orientation, which means it'll stand on its short side, not on its long side. So we'll say OK to that. And it'll tell you here that the margins are out of the print range. So your printer has like a small gap of an area where it can't print real close to the edge of the paper, but we're just going to say yes to this, that we want to apply these changes. And the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to insert a table. So we're going to go up here to Insert and say Insert Table. We want our table to be 4 columns and 3 rows, and you can have a border checked on there, and we'll say OK. Now automatically it automatically puts the rows evenly distributed across the page, which is exactly how we want it. In order to make this tract, you can actually get 12 out of one sheet of paper if you print on both sides, which I'm going to show you in this video. When you insert your table in this way, your rows are already 2.125 inches in width, which is the same width as a credit card. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight all of the cells of the table, or I could just click in the table and say Edit and select all. So once that's all selected, I'm going to right click and I'm going to go down here to row and check on height, and I'm going to uncheck this fit to size, and you want to make your row height 3.37 inches in height, and we'll say OK. Now the reason I do that is because this is the size of a driver's license or a credit card or whatever. The reason I make them this size, and I have this little gap down here at the bottom, is because when you make them this size, they'll fit into like the credit card slots in your wallet, which is a nice way to carry a bunch of tracts around so they don't get all bent up and things. And so technically you could make these a little bit taller, these cells a little bit taller to fit the whole page, so you don't have to trim off this bottom part. But if you do that, they won't fit in your wallet in those credit card slots. So it's up to you. If you want to make them a little longer and have a little bit more space to write on, you can do that. But that's the reason why I leave this little gap at the bottom. So the next thing you're going to do is copy this table. So again, I'm going to select the whole table, and I'm going to actually, before we copy the table, we're going to right click in here and we're going to say table, and we're going to set the margins in each of these cells here. And the best margins I've found that work for printing is 0.15 inches all around. So that'll give a 0.15 inch margin in each one of these cells on the top, bottom, and both sides. And that's just enough on these edges here to let the printer be able to print. So once we have that selected, we're just going to say OK. Now the table is still highlighted here, so now I'm going to say right click on it again, and I'm going to say copy. And I'm going to click down here, and I'm going to right click here and say paste. And now I've got the same table on 2 pages here. So the next step is to basically just put in whatever you want to put in your tract. Now I'm going to go ahead and do an open on the tract that I already have made that I showed at the beginning of the video here, and I'm going to go ahead and open that, and I'm going to copy just one cell here. I'm going to show you how I do that. So if you highlight the contents in one of the cells and you kind of go over and then back, you'll see it highlights the whole cell. So what I'm going to do then is just right click, and I'm going to say copy. I'm going to go back to my original one here, and I'm going to say paste. And that's in there now. So that's just like as if I had typed it. Now you could type whatever you want in here. For reference, my title is Times New Roman bold 12-point font, and the rest of the tract is Times New Roman 9-point font. So you could make yours font bigger or smaller depending on how you like it. Obviously the bigger you put the font, the less you're going to be able to put on the tract. So this is kind of the happy medium I found, is size 9-point font in the text here. Now, like I said, you can get 12 of these tracts from one sheet of paper. So to do that, you're going to want to copy and paste this cell into each one of these cells. So if you right click on this and say copy, you can either right click and say paste, or you can do the shortcut for paste, which is Control plus V on your keyboard. So it's just faster for me to click in the cell and say Control V, and I can do that pretty quick. So there's the first page of my tract. Now I need to print the back side on a different sheet of paper here. Of course, when I print it, it's going to be the same sheet of paper, just flipped over, as I'll show in a second. So I'm going to go into my other file, and this is the back side of my tract, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy just this one cell. Let's say copy. I'm going to go back to my file here, and I'm in my second table, and I'm going to right click in here, and I'm going to say paste. And okay, so you see how this is cut off a little bit here. I forgot, I actually used a little bit different margin on the bottom. So I'm going to do an edit undo, paste that. And on this second table, I'm going to highlight the table and right click and go to table properties again. And I'm going to uncheck this synchronize button, and I'm going to change this bottom margin, which is how close the text can be to this bottom line. I'm going to change that to 0.05 so that the text can get a little bit closer to that bottom line. And I'm going to say OK. Now I should still have that copied on my clipboard. Now I'm going to say paste with those new settings in my cell. And now you can see that doesn't cut that text off because I changed that margin underneath here. So that's just a little helpful thing if your text is real close to fitting but just getting cut off. You can change that margin there. So once again, once I have that in there like that, I can paste in each one of these cells. And that's it. And that's how I made my tract. Now you can put whatever you want on this tract. Obviously I'm just showing you how I made mine. But now the next part is going to be printing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to want to print this, but I'm only going to want to print this first page at first. So I'm going to go up here to File, and I'm going to say Print, and I'm going to say Pages, and I only want to print the first page. I don't want to print both pages. I just want to print page 1. And then I'm going to go ahead and hit Print here to print that page. And then we'll go up and take that out of the printer, and I'll show you how I flip it over and print on the other side. Okay, so now I'm up at my printer here, and I just wanted to show how I print this tract out on my printer. I have just a really basic Epson inkjet printer. It's an XP300 if anybody's interested. I've had it for a couple of years and it works okay, but it goes through ink really fast. I like to print these particular tracts on cardstock paper. So when I do it, I just load one sheet at a time here. Just like that. And if anybody's interested, this is the cardstock paper that I use, Georgia Pacific. And there's a look at it. And so that's pretty much it. So once I hit print on the printer, or on the computer, my tract will print out here, and we'll see what it looks like. Okay, so the tract's printed out here, and it's important to note how your printer prints your paper. So this particular printer, this paper kind of came out like this and down and printed out like this. So to get the other side to match up perfectly, we're just going to flip it straight over like that so that it comes out the same way. If that makes sense. So again, came out printed like this. So I want this to print first through the printer. So I'm going to flip on the short side like that. And I'm going to insert the paper back in. And then I'm going to go print page 2 on the computer, which will come out up here again. Okay, so here's our piece of paper. There's the other side. Now we just need to cut these things out, and we'll have our 12 tracts off one sheet of paper. Okay, so the next step here is to cut these tracts up, and the way I do it is with a paper cutter. This particular one is by Fiskars, and so it's just a little razor blade and a grid, and it shows you exactly where to cut, and you just follow the line. And so there, I trimmed off that bottom piece. So the next step is just to cut out each of these tracts, which you can see have a border, and so you just cut on the lines. And that's pretty much it for this step. So there we go, I cut out a strip of them. Now I just gotta cut each of those out. So I'll do that real fast. Okay, so now I've got my 12 tracts that are cut pretty evenly, and now just the final step is something I just recently purchased actually that makes them look a little nicer and a little easier to slide into slots and things. Okay, so the final step here to make these tracts look the way I showed in the beginning is by using something called a corner rounder. This is 5mm, and basically all you do is put the tract up against the corners like that, and then punch, and it actually rounds the corner off. So I'll do it real fast here to this one on all 4 sides. And there's my final tract. So hopefully this was helpful for anybody out there, and appreciate you watching this video. And if you have any comments, I will answer them whenever I get a chance. Thank you.